We're raising our prices, but not for you. If you're already a member, nothing changes. Your monthly cost stays locked in at $20 forever. For everyone else, once we hit 1,000 members or on December 1st, whichever comes quickest, new memberships will cost $29 a month. Once we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, all 1,000 subscribers are going to get our 100 plus hotel and travel workouts ebook for free. If you've already bought it, you're going to get the updated version with modified options for every single workout. You still have time to lock this $20 price in for life. Sign up now and save at trainsentinel.com. You don't want to miss it.
I think there's only like 20 spots left. So if you want to save yourself some money, if you hate money, just wait and then it'll be $29 a month. Caity, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? I think
I'm
we're both
great.
jet lagged.
Yeah, are you in Scotland now?
Yeah, I got in this morning.
Okay. I checked the weather app. Actually, Nick Johnson from Proven sent me a screenshot of the weather app. I was like, what the hell is wrong with Scotland? It doesn't look too hot.
I feel like this same temperature as last year, and I think every time I've been here, it either rains or it doesn't rain, or it rains every day, which is fine. But it was nice today, just a little bit breezy.
Yeah. I equated it to the Sunday crash last weekend. The sun went in and everyone was like, God, it's freezing. And I was like, really? That's pretty pleasant. I quite like this, like a summer's day.
Yeah, I think it's all relative. I came over with some people from Florida and they were like, it's freezing here. And I was like, it's the same temperature in Ohio when I left. So I feel like it's fine for me. I think it's all dependent on where you live.
Yeah, I think, whatever your experience and your build-up is. How is prep going? Do you guys have access to the venue yet, or what's happening there?
We get access Sunday. This has been, the last couple of weeks have been super stressful because we had some port delays with the containers. And then right before it hit the English Channel, I unlocked a new level of anxiety because the boat decided to go to France instead of into England. And we had no real communication why for about 48 hours. And like we were down to like days because of the delay. So there's a lot of not a lot of sleep for a couple days there last week, but it came in, got into port in Southampton, and they're up in Aberdeen now, so we can breathe a little easier.
So does that come from Rogue, the stuff that's going over on a ship, and then you just like rent a trucking company or something to bring it up from Southampton?
Yeah, we contracted out with the container company, but it was tight because we came home from the games, and basically the week after we got home from the games, we started packing for the Invitational. We had some of the stuff packed before we went to games, and then we packed 20 containers in a 2-week spot at the end of August, and then everything shipped first week of September. So it was just a really tight turnaround to get everything moving.
When you see like the doing that and the level of organization stuff that's required, and then you hear people saying like, oh, can we have the games abroad? Are you like, man, that is a big ask?
I think I think there's stress going anywhere, like even if it's going an hour, right? Like we do the Arnold and it's in our backyard. It's 2 blocks away from our HQ, and there's stress with that, just getting stuff there, making sure you have the right stuff, and then inevitably you probably forget something and have to like go get it. So even if it's a couple blocks away or, across the pond, I think it has operational stress no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you do like, do you take that into account when Rogue is being programmed? Like, I know it's Josh and Chris and you is like a collaborative kind of effort. Yeah. Am I right in saying that it's like, say the two guys, I'll give you 2 scenarios and you tell me which one is more accurate. So you say, here's what I'm thinking. And then they go away, come back and say, here's what we came up with. And you say, no, a little bit different, or yeah, that's perfect. Or do they come to you and then you say, not sure we can swing that piece of machinery. Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe change this.
I think it's a mix of both of those. And I think now that we're in year, 4 or 5 of us doing it together, we have a much better relationship where we're just really collaborative. So we all come to the table with like, hey, what do you think? Here's what we did, last year, a couple of years ago. And then we started throwing things away. And then this year they went away for, a week or two, and then we came back and they had some workouts to look at, and we made some significant changes and then refined it. And what we really needed, pre-games was just what do we think the basis of the equipment that we want to go. We can still tweak the programming, but I at least had to know like what was going to be on the water so we could use that, obviously. And then the real wild card this year is we have some pretty cool stuff that we made for the Strongman, and that came up to like the last hour. Like we were like still making stuff on the manufacturing line the day that it had to ship. So that added a lot of stress. But back to Josh and Chris and I programming, it's especially coming over here last year, it was mainly just like, hey, here's what we have on the water. If we have to make a change, this is our set. But we are lucky to have the warehouse in Antwerp. So we do ship, we're shipping 5 trailers from our Europe warehouse as well to supplement here in Aberdeen.
Is there stuff that you guys think of or, conceive for the, I guess specifically for the Strongman? I mean, thinking of some of the stuff you had down through the years, like, is there anything that you can't do? Like, is there anything that you're like, well, that's a great idea, but God, that's way too much stress trying to bring that?
There's some of that. There's definitely some of that even in the CrossFit programming, right? Where like, we may have this great idea and think it's going to be really cool, but maybe it's going to be really hard on the judges, or maybe it's not going to be great to watch, maybe a good test for the athlete, but not great for the spectator or the broadcast. So we're trying to put all of that together. It's not just about the workout. It's like, what does that whole picture look like? And then for Strongman, it's stuff, like when we made the roller coaster, we'd never made a roller coaster before. And when we put it together, we were still learning on the fly. And then doing it the second year, it got better. But those are really fun projects to do. And they end up, taking us a couple of days to put together. And then it's like the event is over in, 90 seconds for the athlete. And then you got to tear it down. But they look really cool, right? So it's some of that stuff, especially for Strongman, they're so big. Like these guys are so big. You have to make things look massive as part of the show, right? Because they're lifting heavy ass objects. So this year we made in Edinburgh Castle, there's Mons Meg. It's a big cannon. And I think the French gifted it to the Scots. So we recreated that. So you'll see 2 cannons that we made, and that'll be the final. So they'll load stones into the cannon.
Oh, that's cool.
Women event. And then the other thing we made this year,
fire them at the crowd.
Yeah, right. Apparently, the lore, I think, is that they could shoot it for 2 miles. I don't know if I believe that, but yeah, I think that's going to be really cool. And then the other one is like a part of history, which we, really want to be able to tell the story. If you look at it, we're trying to tell the story of, the history of a implement or a product, and not just, what's right in front of us. So we were gifted these wheels that John Paul Sigmundson lifted on in his famous deadlift, where he shouts you're not alive if you can't do deadlift.
Yeah.
And we took them and then basically took the original wheel and then recreated that using some of those pieces. And that's what they're going to lift on for the first event for the deadlift. So really tying in, we try to tie in the culture of where we're at, history of an implement if we can, and then the current day into what these athletes can do, because they're all pushing the bounds, whether that's strongman, strongwoman, or CrossFit.
It's funny as well watching. So like Bill kind of posts a lot of sort of teasery type things, and because I'm incredibly self-centered, I just forget that Strongman exists basically, and immediately assume it's something to do with CrossFit and start guessing like, wow, what could this possibly be? Like there was one year, it was when I was in Ohio, and it was the big wooden like deadlifting frame, the thing was underneath. And I remember looking at it being like, my God, what are they going to get them to do with this? And then it was Strongman. I was like, oh, okay. And then next year, immediately forgot about Strongman again and assumed everything was about CrossFit. But yeah, I love looking at it.
Sorry to cut you off. I think that's what's interesting too, is that, we always look at an implement like that, like the, Tower of Power. We looked at it and said, could we use this for CrossFit? Like, is there a way that we could change the weight out? And you definitely could, but you'll always see some influence from Strongman in the CrossFit programming that we're doing. And I think, we get a lot of pushback on that, but we're not trying, I'll repeat this. We're not trying to find the fittest on earth. That is the games. They have their thing. We want to support that. This is something different for the athletes. There's so many events out there, and we're really comfortable with, what we want the invitational to be in the programming. So you're going to see elements of that, and you'll see elements of combining, implements together for Strongman that feels a little bit more like CrossFit. So there's a little bit of crossover on both sports.
With the first one was 2019, was it?
Yeah.
And that was that in the warehouse sort of?
Yeah. So we had it in the corner of our warehouse was the indoor arena. And then we did have an outdoor lot that we brought in turf. And, if we could recreate that, if we could get it back to HQ and we could have that feel, we're just, the warehouse is too stacked right now. We could not get an arena in there. There's just too much product and storage. But if we could do that and get something out on the front lot, like we really would like to do that.
Is there a redevelopment or something happening now, or like an extension or something being built? Did I see that somewhere?
Yeah, so in 2017 we were in 5 buildings and we went down to 1, our current HQ, and then during COVID we went back to 5 buildings, and we're in 4. And just logistically that doesn't make sense. It spreads our team across. We're transporting stuff across town every day. And so now we're going to add on to the back half of our building. We'll put another 300,000 square foot on. So that'll take all 4 buildings back into 1 for us. So we hope that we broke ground a couple weeks ago, and we hope to be moving in next October.
When you say that you had 1 and then 4 or 5 and then 4, is that like you're selling buildings off or demolishing, or what's happening?
No, some of those were leasing. Basically, we went back to, so we combined into the main HQ in 17, but we kept our old manufacturing building, and that's basically where we moved back into. All of our lasers are on the west side of the city, and then we needed other storage. So we have warehouse, overstock storage in our events warehouse, and some manufacturing raw storage, basically in between the 2 buildings. And then our main function is out of HQ, obviously assembly and paint line and things like that. But it's time for us to be back in 1 building. It makes sense. And, we have the space, we own the property south of us. So it was time to do it.
So does that mean then that potentially this could be the last, like, not at HQ Rogue?
This one, the one here in Aberdeen. No, I think we'll continue to go. I don't think we want to get, even if we went back to Columbus, I think it would be for a year. I don't think we'll get stuck in a spot. I think it's great to go other places and other cultures and other avenues where different, spectators have different access. And that's one of the reasons we came over, because we knew that, the hype was there, and we figured the crowd would be great. And they exceeded our expectations last year. I mean, the crowd was amazing last year, and I don't expect anything less this year. Not that any other place that we've been, but it was, we thought it would be kind of a rowdy crowd, and that's what we got.
Yeah, it was crazy. One of the really good things that I enjoyed was Lauren doing the in-person, like in the crowd, like engagement. Yeah. And I think the reason I enjoyed it was because I've seen that done in multiple places, but there was something about the fact that it was happening in Scotland that I was like, this could literally go anywhere. Like anything could happen in the next 5 minutes. And sometimes it was totally fine. And then other times it was just off the rails. Like, you were kind of looking at someone being like, that guy's had too much.
Yeah, there were a couple times where I was having a conversation and I could hear it going on. And I just looked up at the Jumbotron and I was like, oh boy, here we go. But that was fun. We're actually she's back. She's going to do that again. And we're just going to expand on that. We're going to add some stuff to that. So I think that'll be a fun experience. We're going to try and throw some of that into the broadcast as well. So just adding on what we had last year.
Speaking of changes then, so the live stream is back, the tailgate is back. Pat is, I was going to say no longer with us. That makes it sound like he's dead. He's not doing it. And Zach Tellender has been brought in. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think we were just looking for different ways to change up what we were doing. Right, we've done the tailgate for the past 4 years. What can we do different? It really became like where we didn't want whoever was up there just calling the event, right? We wanted it to be something different and nothing like, I'm not comparing us to the Manning cast, but like something like that. That's where kind of that idea of the tailgate came from. And this year we're going to go to more like a podcast style. So we're still going to have guests. We're still going to do like updates of what's happening in the event, but really dig into the people that are there and just some of the, stories that they have to tell. So just a different take on what we're doing for the tailgate this year.
Yeah, it's cool. was on, I think I went on like Sunday morning maybe or something, and it was me, Josh, and Pat. And Josh asked Pat something about like, what's it been like? And Pat just looked exhausted. And I was like, God, he's been on the go since like 3, 2, 1 go on the first thing, and he's doing everything like strongman, CrossFit, everything. So like when most people just sort of detach from their bit and walk away, he's just like constantly talking.
Yeah.
It's like so difficult. It's basically like a 48-hour marathon.
So I think this year that was one of the reasons that we changed it. Just this year, it's going to not be the whole time. We'll kind of come in the morning, we'll come in at noon, and then we'll come in and at the end of the day, and maybe sprinkle in a couple others there, depending on who we get on and how exhausted Zach gets. But he's really great at what he does. I think he's going to bring a different perspective just because he hasn't been around as much, and just looking for something fresh. There's a lot of stuff out there. So how can we change it up? How can we bring a different spectator in and, have fun with it.
Like absolute worst case, if it falls apart, he can just whip out his guitar and he'll easily fill 20 minutes. Yeah. You mentioned there about wanting to bring in like the culture and wherever you are, and then the story of Rogue and stuff. Has that been the aim from the start? Would you say, like, to sort of, because I think people talk a lot about competitions, and they talk about the earning potential of competitions and how financially viable competitions are. There's been a lot of talk over the years about the games needing the affiliates and so on. I think I always kind of looked at Rogue as like almost like just a long advertisement, like that. It's like, look at all the cool shit we have, look how well made it is, look at these guys using it. You're never going to be able to use it like them, but maybe you can use a version of it. Is that sort of the mindset going in, that it's basically like a big showroom, and then you get to tell the story of the products and the story of the people competing as well?
I think it's bigger than that. So yes, there's some element to that, right? We're telling our story. It's a marketing play for us. Look, I'll tell you, like, making money in the event industry is hard. Like, we're not making money on this, but we use it as marketing. But it's really, we thought that we could bring an event to the table with the prize purse that we have. So we're bringing more money for the athletes, right? We're going to bring a free live stream, and we're going to elevate the sports so that these athletes can be out there and the communities can have, the athletes can make more money. The communities can rally around just another event. And then, obviously, that's why we like making some of these implements, because you can tell the story, but it's also, coming to Scotland. We did a documentary years ago called Stoneland about the stone culture here in Scotland. And that's why you'll see stones in the events last year, and you see it this year. So it's really tying all of that together. It's not just about our product. Like, if it was just about our product, we wouldn't do it. That's not like what we're trying to shove down people's throat. It's like the whole experience and putting that together as one. But that's not just the invitational. That's really how we look at the business as well, right? It's our job to tell the story of a barbell or a squat stand and how that came to be, and then put it together with, current day products.
It was crazy too. Like last year, the vendor area was just packed all the time. Like every time you walk, like multiple times over the weekend, I was like, I'll just go in now, it'll be quiet, and I'll just get something for the kids or whatever. And then you go in, it's like, cool, no, it's like worse than it was the last time. I thought earlier on, actually, if there's one product I'd like to see, well, I asked Bill ages ago, is it possible to make a GHD that folds in half? Because I want a GHD, but I can't fit one. And he was like, it's been tried. It's like, I don't think it's possible.
I was going to say, he probably told you no.
Yeah.
I mean, is it possible? Yes. I think there's different elements to why we haven't made it.
Yeah. I guess the thing about it is, if it folds, there's a potential for it folding at the wrong time while you're on it, which is probably the issue.
That's number one.
An easier lift maybe will be, so you guys have, this is purely selfish, but you guys have the unicorn kids t-shirt and the shark kids t-shirt, and I would like to formally request like a range of different animals.
We have some in the works. Do you have any animals that you would like to suggest? Because we have some in the works. I have some mock-ups in my inbox that we've actually been working on.
Wow. Do I have any? I mean, like the easy lifts are like a dog and a cat. Everybody likes a dog and a cat, and it promotes a bit of rivalry. I I think like
easy ones. You got to come up with like ones that like, you know, that's why we did the shark and the pirate and
yeah, like
the
a dinosaur. I'm thinking of my own kids. Like my son would love a dinosaur.
We have one. We just
no,
haven't
you
gone
don't, do
deep
you?
enough on the site. Yeah, we do.
Oh, you didn't have it at Rogue last year.
Oh no, we probably didn't bring it, but it's definitely on the site.
Okay. Yeah, I think because every time I go to the games or I go to Rogue, I'm like, oh, I'll get a Rogue t-shirt, and then it's like that goddamn unicorn is haunting me because it's there. And the only thing is she's aging up, so now we'll just be able to get her a bigger one, so it's fine. With that kind of stuff, like my request for a GHT that falls and so how much you must just get constant of people just saying like, have you thought about doing X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, we definitely get stuff every day, but it's also helped us throughout our, you know, Rogue's history of like coming up with products. So if someone has an idea and they want to do it, you know, if it's something that we actually can take to, you know, an actual product, then that person like gets a royalty on what they're doing and what they've helped us, you know, bring to life. So it's actually really helpful.
If I do think of a good animal.
Yeah. If you do think of a good
animal, percentage of sales. Yeah, a bat. You could do a bat. For Caity to release the Deuce t-shirts.
Yeah, IO, Pat. That's Deuce is one of my favorite ones. Do you know what the Deuce is?
No, I might if you say it.
It's a big it's a big truck, basically World War II era kind of truck, or I guess Vietnam era. But we have one sitting outside. Bill, fun fact, Bill bought one of these, and it took me on a date in it, and
wow.
It didn't get us home, so we were stalling out on the way home. And but anyway, it has lived on. It sits out in front of our HQ, and then we just did some apparel around it.
That almost sounds like a panic, like a, hey, look what I bought, and then realize your face and finish the sentence of, I'm bringing you on a date in it. That's why I bought it.
And then I'm not really good at like holding my thoughts in, but like when this was happening, I was just silent because I was like, there is nothing I can add to this right now that's going to help it. But we made it back, and we're still married, so we're in a good spot.
Is there things year to year that, you know, like, I think a lot of people associate like the Jewel with, like, say the CrossFit side specifically, like with Rogue, like that there's going to be a timed race and that kind of stuff, or you know, a bracket race or something. Is there things that when you guys set out at the start of the year that you're like, okay, well, we need this type of workout, this type of workout, and this type of workout because we usually have those, or we always have those, or whatever?
I don't know if type of workout, but yeah, there's different elements in there that we want to use, or that you're going to see that maybe you wouldn't see somewhere else, just because we've used it so many, you know, over the years. But it's definitely a conversation piece, usually in that first one with Josh and Chris and I, of what we want to use, and you know, if there were workouts that didn't work, or combinations that didn't work, or didn't fit well for the athlete or the race we wanted. So we go through that whole cycle every year.
How far ahead do you guys plan? Like, as in, I know with, say, the games, they're sort of 12 to 18 months out. They know, you know, they knew they were going here, like before we knew, obviously, this week. To San Jose. Like, how far out do you guys plan? Because I'm guessing it's sort of like turning a tanker. Like, you can't just be like, well, let's just go to London next year. Like, there's a lot of moving parts and stuff. How far out do you have to be prepped? Like, do you know now next year and the year after already, or how far out do you go?
We have a pretty good idea of next year, but it's also about the venues too, because the venues now are starting to book a year out. So you're not, like, if you went to someone 3 or 6 months out, you're not getting anything that you want. Or it would be like, you know, you'd be really lucky if you did. So we started looking at the beginning of the year of where we're going to be. We haven't finalized it yet, but we're pretty close on that.
So does that mean it's not Aberdeen then, if you're looking?
Yeah, it won't be here. I will say that we won't be here. We'll be moving. It's been great here. P&J Arena has been great. City of Aberdeen has been wonderful. But it's 2 years at a place, I think is good, and then operationally it's good, and then I think you want to move on. So we will be somewhere else next year, and hopefully we can announce that before the end of the year.
I've got time. You can answer now if you want. Someone asked earlier on, where is it? Oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to find. Oh yeah, can Caity share one of the workouts? So if we get 100 subscribers during the show, Caity will give one of the workouts.
Hey, Spin already has all the workouts. That's all the thing. He's already got them. He's just waiting to release them.
There you go. Well, you can release one here if we get 100 subscribers. We won't, so don't sweat it. It's not going to happen. Is there? So last year you had the outside aspect of the programming was the run, like the out and back in. Is something similar happening, or will there be anything like fully outside this year?
If I could have everything outside, we would. But I think that last year in Texas was so hard because of the rain. Like that was, I still don't think we've gotten over that. I just think an outdoor event just brings so much to the table with what you can do, the atmosphere, things like that. So yeah, I think we'll always try to incorporate something. But we'll see next week.
Interesting. 9 events, is that accurate?
That's what the website says. Someone else already posted that.
Yeah, Spin did, but I mean, he knows the workout, so.
Yeah. No, yeah, it'll be 9 events. I mean, since it's out there, yeah, we can talk about it. It'll be 9 events, what it was last year. We think that's a good spot. And hopefully, at the end of the weekend, it'll be a good test and a complete test across the board.
When do you think people, say if someone was maybe planning a preview show of Rogue, when do you think the workouts would be announced?
Probably a similar timeline to last year, so early next week.
Okay, that's fine. I went with Tuesday, so it might be okay. You mentioned the programming there, and you said at the start of the show, and you've kind of been clear down through the years of like it's not supposed to be a perfectly balanced. It's not supposed to be. How close do you try and get to it? Like, do you program, say, workouts that you think would be spectator friendly and fun for the athletes to do, or do you focus on, okay, we need a short one, a long one, a weightlifting? You know what I mean? Like, how do you start the process?
There's definitely a good mix of that, of like what we want. Like, let's say like, you wanted an implement in there and say, hey, we want to use this, but we also need a shorter workout. So we're trying to make that work together as we kind of get the complete picture. And I think, there were times this year where we looked at it and we're like, hey, this actually doesn't work. We have too many long workouts. We need to shorten some of these up or change them. And, we had maybe 25 workouts that we kind of whittled down into what we have. So I think it's just a longer conversation of what works, and then, testing it. Does it actually make sense when we test it? Does it feel like a good test across the weekend? And we're not perfect. We've learned a lot along the way. But I think we're more comfortable with where we land each year than a lot of other people with a lot of opinions are. And that's okay too, because it's an invitational, and if the athletes want to come, which I do think they still do, they want to compete, and it's just different. There's so many events now, and that's not a knock on anything. There's just a lot of events. So how do we make ourselves different? Because it can't be the same type of events over and over and over again. That's not good either.
Do you listen to that kind of noise, like a criticism of the programming or any of that kind of stuff? Does it bother you, or do you just like not care?
Well, I think like everything, you should listen to everything. There is some truth in all of it, and it's how you take it in. So if I got really mad about it and just got defensive, then you're not really listening to that. But if you actually break it down and you're like listening to what people are saying, no matter how they say it, you kind of take that and you're looking at the whole picture as you do your debrief, and like, oh, did this not work? Did it not? But if someone's like, hey, we didn't like something just because they don't like something because it's not, another event or something they didn't program, then that's their own issue. So it's kind of like sifting through the stuff that you need to listen to, and not just, everything else out there. Because there's a lot of it, but that just with what we do.
Is it Chris and Josh test everything, or do other people test too? Like people that you know?
No, I do want to clear that up, because I think you've had people on your show say that Chris and Josh test these workouts, and that is actually not the case. We bring in games level or semifinal level athletes and test these workouts. So Josh and Chris and I are too old, and they'll probably be mad at me for saying that, but we're too old. You know, we have probably a good idea of where it should be, but we know that we need other athletes to be testing these to get us to where we need to be.
It's impressive that that's not been, well, publicly known, at least until now, considering how well known and how many leaks there has been down through the years of like who's testing different workouts or different competitions and stuff.
Well, I think that's like, you know, I think one thing I do, like one thing on that is like, I try to hold this as close to the vest as possible. And it maybe people don't like that, but I want it to be fair for the athletes. So all these leaks that are out there, that's just, you know, people not looking out for the fairness for the athletes. And, you know, look, life isn't fair, but if we can hold it to where the athletes are all getting the same information at the same time, that's about as fair as you can have it, right? So we try to keep that circle as close as possible until it's actually needed to get to a broader audience for that reason. And that's, you know, that's how we like to operate. And whether you like it or not, that's how we're going to go about business.
Yeah, I think it is the fairest way is to keep it. And then I think the second fairest way is when, like Hiller's approach of when he hears it just being like, well, fuck it, everyone needs to know now. Because if I know, five people know.
Yeah, and I think that's what you'll see. Like if we ever see something like that, or if like, let's say an athlete asks a question, because they email in questions all the time, and we think it's not just for that athlete, we'll just email every single athlete the question that was asked and the answer to the question, because it shouldn't just be one athlete getting that information. And I think, you know, you're not always going to be perfect, but as close as you can get to that is what we should all be pushing for.
Do you watch other events? Like, do you watch, I know you watch the games, obviously, I mean, you tested all the rowers, but like, do you watch other competitions throughout the year? Like, you know, World Fitness Project, Crash, like the semifinals, are you that involved?
Yeah, I think, look, I'm a fan of the sport. I've been in the sport since 2008. And I think, you know, we sponsor athletes. I'm really curious with how other people are doing it. I think if you're not watching things like that, how do you learn? Like, how do you take elements of that and see what other people are doing and, you know, see what these athletes can push the bounds on? I think if you're not doing that and you're in the space trying to do some of this stuff, then it's, in my opinion, not the right way to approach it, because you can learn something from everyone.
Did you watch Crash at the weekend?
I watched parts of it. Yeah, I was super busy trying to get ready to leave, but I did catch a few of it.
Any potential of using P-score in Rogue in the future?
I think this was a hot topic about a month ago with you and I don't think that. I think we're settled with how we score. We're settled with our point system too. But I think, you know, Crash, look, they run a great event. I think running it in the affiliate is awesome. I think the way that they set it up, I think, you know, the way you guys broadcast it and had the athletes involved, I think it was a great weekend. But back to your question, no, probably not a chance that we're going to use that.
When you do, so I do an affiliate show with Johnny in 179 and with JR and with Jamie up in Newcastle. Do you do like frequent flyers miles thing for Rogue? Like looking at Johnny's gym, it's like, I'm pretty sure the toilet paper is Rogue toilet paper. Like, do you ever do stuff like that where you're like, wow, this gym is actually literally everything is Rogue? We should do, like, I know he has a little plaque that's like he's like a Rogue gym. Yeah. But, you know, if you should partner with some credit card company or something and be like, we'll give you miles.
Yeah, so we're trying to do that. We launched a map on our site, and so each affiliate or any customer that's ordered from us can submit their gym, and they can put in pictures and all that, and you can see all the Rogue gyms all over the world. And that's really our first step into this. But we've also been pulling in people that we see like that. If we see that, then we're trying to get them to like say, hey, walk us through your gym, talk us through how you use the equipment, because sometimes how we think it's intended, that's not actually how they're using it, or how they set up their space. So that can help other customers, because we're still getting similar questions than we did in 2010 about how to set up a space, what equipment I need. And that's in this day and age, you think those questions would already be answered, but they're not. And I think you should rely on the people using it every day and not just us spewing it to you.
Yeah, I think that was maybe one of the major disappointments for Johnny when he was watching the Crash live stream. Was like, God damn, JR is more shit than I do from Rogue. I think I was like, I bet he's on the website right now, being like, what else can I get?
One thing I did think was cool is he integrated those rig mounted parallel bars. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Into the event, that was a cool addition.
Yeah, I mean, if you like weird stuff from Rogue being used, I know Johnny has those tiny little, they're like fractional plate holders. They're really small, and he has them bolt onto the walls for holding like weight vests and all different. He has like a wall full of them. So yeah, he's pretty innovative with his stuff. I was looking earlier on. So you did. You obviously won the games in 2008. Yeah. And I was talking to Austin Maliola yesterday, and we were kind of talking about how bizarre it is how much the sport has changed from like early days to now. And I guess you programming Rogue, there must be times where you're looking at the weights being like, geez, like if this was like this, just the development of the sport is nuts when you look at it. Like the way the weights have changed, the times have changed, as in like how fast people are doing stuff, the movements, like the equipment being used. And I think like Rogue have played no small part in that, of being like innovative and changing stuff. And, there's been years where Dave is like, hey, let's make this. And it's just been made or built or whatever. It must be odd looking back at having been omnipresent throughout that whole period.
I think, well, one, it seems like a lifetime ago, like 2008 and the games then seemed like a lifetime ago. And, it was at the ranch. I was coming from, a team sport background, and then I go do this individual event, and it was just like, it was awesome. You're in the dirt doing, a version of Fran, some deadlift and burpees. And, at the end of the event, they hand you a wad of cash, in a book bag. And nobody then was a full-time athlete. And I think if you look, you keep referencing weights, but I think volume, like the time these athletes are putting in and really making it their job. And I think, there's a couple pieces of time where it's like, when it moved to Carson in 2010, that was like this big jump of like what the equipment looked like on the field, the athletes kind of taking that next step. And then, just for Rogue, like when we put Zeus out on the soccer field, like that was cool because it kind of filled in that space, and that really kind of took us to that next level because the athletes were starting to like be able to do all the volume, and the sport was just growing so fast, and you had all these athletes coming in, and the vibe was just amazing. And going up to Madison, I just think kind of the evolution of the sport and the athlete has, to be in it as long as I have been, just to watch it grow has been amazing. Like I just haven't ever been a part of something like that, where you get to kind of watch something from its infancy up to where now it's a mature sport, and it's still young, compared to other sports. There's still a huge runway for that, but these athletes are just taking it to the bounds of human potential.
You guys are very I guess like loyal is probably how I describe you and Bill and Rogue, like the company of Rogue. And I guess sort of like blinkered as well, like that. Like there's a lot of shit that goes on and a lot of noise and a lot of stuff happening, and it just never really seems to waver like where you're going. Like I think maybe a lot of people expected that you might distance from the games after last year for this year, or you might, not touch World Fitness Project when the games are still going on and it could be seen as a conflict and that kind of stuff. But you seem to just stay steady in the center and just not let anything either side, which has to be hard when it gets pretty loud at times too.
I think the base of it, the foundation of it though, it's not hard, because you talk about loyalty and you talk about, wanting the community to succeed and not, falter. And if we can be, a steady hand in that, but also just, it's like, you got to take it for what's happening at the time and just figure out where you want to go. And obviously we love the community and we love the sport and we love the athletes. So what can we do to help in that? And, I think I was just brought up in a way that if you look someone in the eye and shake their hand, like I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And I've just always, kind of lived by that. And I think Rogue and Bill obviously has that as well. And that's just really how we run the company and how we build the foundation of that. And we're going to keep moving forward and kind of, weather anything that's coming and support whoever's needed.
Susan Page, so I'll bring his up. Hi, Caity. Who's your favorite media person, and why is it Matt Souza?
I was going to say it's not Souza, so thanks for the money.
We're not seeing a red cent to that, Caity. Sorry to break to you.
I'll just say hi back. And hope
he told me recently that he was passing. I think he was at an affiliate conference or affiliate gathering or something. He's passing. Man, he was so vocal in his praise for like you guys and the welcome and the tour, and like he was like, oh, it was crazy how like much time they gave and stuff. I think a lot of people are just like, yeah, there's the go have a look around if you want, but he was very impressed. He was singing your praises. With the loyalty and stuff then with Rogue, is it, do you think, I think you guys are kind of unique in that when you sign an athlete, and you've got a lot of athletes relative to say other companies, but they're just, that's it then, they're Rogue. Like, I mean, Miko Salo is still involved. Do you know what I mean? It's like, once you're in, you're in. I'm assuming they could potentially fuck it up somehow, but I mean, once they don't, they're just there, that's it. Is that, I think that's quite unique, because most of the stuff is kind of transient. It's like you'll sign an athlete when they're hot, and then when they're not, it's like, all right, we're going to go in a different direction. Like, we're not paying you anymore. We don't want you involved anymore. Is that, do you think, from your being an athlete yourself and knowing like that's a point of frustration for people, or that it's not, that it's just sort of nicer to be held long-term rather than just like a short little blip?
Yeah, I think definitely my background has shaped some of that, but I think it's also just how, Bill and I and Rogue look at what it is, and it's not just a transaction. So if you look at who we've signed, it's not because they're hot, it's because we've watched them over a period of time, and it's, how, not only how are they competing, but how do they treat people? How are they interacting, in the media and things like that and just because maybe they stopped competing, if you look at Miko, he's a journeyman for us, and he's a great steward for our brand because he still lives that lifestyle. Why would we? It's more like a, kind of like a family. Why would we let that go? And it's a two-way street, right? If someone doesn't want to be a part of Rogue, that's okay too. Let's have that conversation. But we're not just going to drop someone just because, maybe they made a life decision to move on and retire or do something else with their career, because they're still living out their lifestyle of using the equipment and working out and being healthy. And at the end of the day, that's more important to us than, standing on a podium. Like, yes, that's great. But it's not just a marketing tool for us.
It's sort of closer to like what they do in soccer when, like a legend retires and they just become an ambassador for the club, which is basically like we'll fly you around and you can wave at people. Like you're just involved, you're part of the club. So yeah, it's kind of similar to that. So recently you signed Jason and Dallin. They're your two most recent acquisitions. What is it, or like, what did you see in them that you thought, these are it? Like it's sort of like the next generation a bit, I guess, that they're the newest versions of, say, Froning or whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're always going to have that newer crop, right? That sport, right? Like, well, who are the next up and coming athletes? And I think that they are two, great examples of that. They're very competitive. They have a lot of talent, and they're two really good guys. Enjoy being around them, and I think they live what our brand is about. But yeah, it's always, each year we're looking at it of who can we bring on, whether that's someone that's still already established in the space or someone that we think is going to be the up and comer of, being that top 10, top 5 or win it. And that we want to be a part of the team, but we always, I'm always, that's why it's another reason why I try to pay attention to what's going on in the sport, because you have to be in the know of what these guys are doing to be able to have someone on your team for sure.
Yeah, you can sponsor a podcast. It'd be a lot less of a financial burden, I'd say. Is there anyone on the horizon then, do you think? Is there anyone that you're in conversations with at the minute that could be coming out or no?
No, not right now. I think we're probably settled toward the end of the year. I think going into next year, we'll look at the team and figure out, where we want to go and what the year looks like next year, or I guess the next 2 years. Because we're not just looking a year out. I don't want to sign someone for 6 months or a year. It'd be more of a multi-year contract is typically how we do it, because we want them to really be a part of Rogue and the culture and the team.
Does that mean it's a much longer run up? Like that you don't, I'm guessing with like a protein powder, they can just say to like, hey, Dallin, we think you're really cool. You get 10% of sales and here's $500 a month versus, and it's like a 6-month contract versus you guys saying like, hey, for the rest of your life, do you want to be a Rogue athlete until like you're dead basically? And then that's a lot. I'm assuming it's like,
word it that way. And I'm not knocking anyone else because that's everyone's business is different.
Yeah.
It's just how we choose to do business. But yeah, for us, it's a much longer play, right? And it's, hey, let's get you some Rogue gear and train on it. And if you're training on it daily, you're kind of doing your job. You don't have to really, I don't want to force them to do an ad. And again, I'm not knocking anyone that does that. It's just we want it more organic. Like just go use the gear and put it through its paces, and then you're doing your job.
Has there been any? If it's that long of a run up, have there been times where you've been talking to someone and then be like, actually, do you know what? You'd be better suited with the Lico.
No, I don't. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that we would have had conversations that like we're pretty much settled. Like if we want to go with someone, like we've pretty much kind of gone through all of that before we even start a conversation with somebody.
It's interesting. Has there been any like people that you wish you had signed, like say who aren't competing anymore or whatever, that you thought like, man, if we got them, that would have been sweet in hindsight?
No, I think if you go all the way back, I think there was, at the start, like Froning was again, faster athlete at first. And then he came over to the Rogue side after the Rogue, again, faster challenge out there in Tahoe. That's like one event, like one of my favorite events of all time in this whole space. It was so much fun to compete in, to be a part of, and just looking back on it. And I think Rich and Austin talked about it on their podcast a little bit in the last couple of weeks. So I think, maybe looking back, like there maybe some in the early days, there would have been something like that. But I think now I don't know if I would say that. I'm sure we have missed out on some though.
With Rogue, then it's whatever, 7 days out, you get the keys, we'll say on Sunday. And you, like how many people will go in? Because like the rig has to be put up, all the flooring, all the, like, am I right in thinking you brought that light system yourselves last year? That is fucking nuts. It couldn't have been that bad.
We contracted out that, but yeah, they're doing the same thing. So they're going to rig, there's a show, I think, Saturday night, they're going to tear down at night. The riggers are going to come in, put the Jumbotron up and the lights again. And then we'll start we'll unload the containers Sunday and lay out the floor. And then we'll put Zeus up on Monday.
So then check-in is Thursday?
Yeah, so we'll try to have everything up by then.
Crazy. How many people are involved in it, like in the rigging and kitting it out?
Oh, I mean, with all the like the contract riggers and stuff like that, there's well over 100, and that includes all the people that we're bringing in, all our team leads, and everything we need to pull the event off. I mean, so we'll just have a lot of people, and that's why it's tough running an event. It's stressful, right? And it takes everybody to pull off everything so that outside the curtain, we need it hopefully doesn't look like chaos, but behind those curtains, it can look like however it needs to look, as long as when you come out on the floor for the athletes, it's like ready to go.
You tested the what do you call it, rowers at Rogue at the games. Is that common? Like, do you do that all like at all the, like, would you test all the whatever?
No, and it started. It was so the first time we used it in the open, and then it was just the first time in a major show, and I got on the first 20, and I thought, what, I'm just gonna do, because they had I think 84 with the teams were in play, plus we had some for warm up, and I thought, well, if I've done these, I might as well just go. And it really wasn't anything to do with the rower, but like we had a lot of volunteers building it, and they were great, but there were just things where, you know, bolts weren't tightened, the seats weren't on, they were on backwards, and maybe the monitor plug wasn't in. So I wasn't really, I think a lot of people use the word calibrate. I wasn't calibrating it. I was just making sure that everything was put together properly. And that's really how I got into that.
You didn't do that for the GHDs at World Fitness Project, no?
I did not. I was not at that event, no.
Dan is saying they have lights. I know they have lights in Europe, but I just thought it was surprising that the lights at the venue.
He thinks that we're going to compete in darkness. Might be cool.
Yeah.
Put everybody on and see how it works.
So what's there normally? Because like the lighting is really cool in there. So you brought all of that in and the jumbotron.
Yeah. I mean, for broadcast, I think if you wanted to have it where it's just like spectators coming in, you weren't broadcasting, you could use what they have in the venue. But like to make the broadcast look how we wanted it to look, we definitely needed the lighting system that we brought in.
Cool. Okay. So then when you see the programming and you know what's coming up, and then you know the field of athletes, are you already now in your head thinking like, I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't win, or she should probably win this?
I don't think I ever really go in like who I think is going to win the overall. I think there's definitely workouts where, you know, we're looking at, you know, who might be the best at it and who might be the worst. So you're looking at your time caps and you're trying to figure out like, hey, who do we think is going to be up here and down here? And it's more so for time cap purposes than I am like who's actually going to win the event.
It's obviously, I mean, you're never going to say this, but I'm guessing it's favorable that it's a rogue athlete that wins every event and overall.
I guess no, I'm not going to say that. Here's what I want. I mean, and I truly believe, like, I want the best athlete to win. I want the person that, you know, is working the hardest and doing the best over the weekend. And if that's a rogue athlete, yes, that's great. But if it's not, like, that's not what the event's about. Like, whoever is supposed to be at the top of that podium should be on the top of that podium, regardless of who they're sponsored by.
There's been a few changes then later on, I guess. Saxon is in for Dallin and Harry Lightfoot is in. So glad you listened to me on that one. For Noah. Obviously, like, I mean, it sucks for Dallin. Like, he's lost his Rogue sponsorship now because he pulled out. But
Dallin, we're good. Don't listen to him.
With those changes, like, I mean, I guess it's the benefit of the field and the fact that it is an invitational, that you have these incredible people that are waiting in the wings who are just ready to step in and match or exceed what would have been done otherwise. Like, the field is just so deep that it's just amazing having this, hey, do you want to come? And you know it's someone that's capable of hanging.
Well, I think that's what's so hard is that no matter who's invited in that 20, right? Like, if we use games, if we use rogue point system, and then whoever the invites are, there's always going to be people out that either the athlete obviously doesn't like it, and, you know, everybody else. So you're never going to make everybody happy. And it's like, who can we put in? So, you know, this year we used, you know, top 5 from games for sure. And then we went rogue point system, and then there were a couple invites, and I think there always will be. I think, you know, with, like, you know, especially with Saxon, because that was like basically this week, like, that's people that are willing to say, hey, like, I'm ready a week out, you know, like, put me in. I always kind of am amazed by, you know, just athletes that accept this late, but it's also a testament to where their training is as well.
Yeah, I think it's where Rogue is held though as well. I mean, I feel like even if someone wasn't ready and Rogue called, you'd be like, yeah, all right, fuck it. Like, I'll give it a go. I'm not going to turn any heads, but I'll show up. Because it is, like, it's remarkable, really. I mean, there's, you know, when you look at the event sort of ecosystem, you have, you know, you guys, the games, you know, Dubai has sort of come and it seems to have gone, but, you know, it was around, and Wadapalooza, and there's all these events that are either growing or changing or moving. But, like, I don't know if maybe you had set out this at the start, but it is crazy how Rogue has sort of become just like one step below the games now, where it's like, it's the one that everybody, I mean, Adler said it at Wadapalooza. He was talking about, you know, I was asking about how much training you'd have to do and all the different events and stuff. And he was like, well, it's Rogue is the North Star. So, like, whatever works around that, which, like, is remarkable, really, when you think about that it's 4 years old and it's already held at such high esteem.
I appreciate Jeff saying that, but I don't, I think these athletes, it all depends on where they're at in their career. If they're established, like, maybe they can make comments like that, but there's other athletes that are just coming in that, like, they really need to prove themselves kind of across the game season and these other events just to get more experience. I mean, that's part of being an athlete. Like, the more that you can compete, the more experience you have, and then you can work your way into some of these, larger events. And I think the first event that we ever had was in May, and we were a qualifier for the games when it was, the sanctionals. And now we've moved to October and have kind of gotten into that slot. And I think you can kind of, put your calendar to that time frame. But yeah, I don't really know how to react to some of the athletes saying that. I think, it's, we're going to be there, and hopefully they show up.
Yeah. This year it was one online qualifier got in. Is that right? Is that, do you think
there was two athletes?
One athlete, wasn't it? One male, one female, say.
Yeah.
Do you think, is that the way moving forwards?
Yeah, I think we'll always kind of have that qualifier of giving them, it'll be some mix of the point system, games finish, and then somewhere between the qualifier and an invitation, depending on where that kind of ranks in the year and what people look like and who's injured. And I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. And, I said it before, and I'll probably continue to say it as we go through this, that, we know that we're not going to make everybody happy, but it's like, who do we think that we can put the best field out there? And the most competitive field out there.
Yeah, I think the fact that it is, like you say, it's the invitation. I think, there's, for a long time, I suppose my sort of thing with it is like, it's their game, like they can just do whatever they want. And it's a unique position because others do, largely qualifiers with a couple of invites, and others do a specific like the games has a specific qualifying system, and people would be quite pissed off if Dave just randomly started inviting people. Whereas you guys are in a position to just say like, no, we're just going to, like, we're not using the rogue system anymore. We're just going to invite these 20 people that we picked. You know what I mean? And people just be like, all right, I'll still buy my ticket, or I'll go, or I want a bit of Bitcoin, so I'm going to compete. So can you give us like a tease of something, maybe, or like a whisper of maybe an implement, or a time domain, or something that might show up for the guys next week?
Nope.
Fuck's sake.
I know you want it, but we're going to wait till next week. I think there'll be things used that we've used before, and I think there'll be new things. And I think hopefully we put on a good event, and the athletes, if they come out and compete like hell, I think it's going to be a hell of a show.
Will there be a duel, like another duel type workout? Would that be a safe bet?
You cut out. I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
All right. Listen, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you giving up your time. I know it has to be crazy hectic. Good luck with your jet lag. My advice is to stay awake for another like 2 hours and then just go to sleep, and you should wake up feeling like absolute shit tomorrow. But it gets better from there after it briefly gets worse.
I think I've been over here, I've been visiting over here a ton. So I think that's definitely what I'm trying for. And that's why I came over a couple days early, just so by the weekend I felt pretty good. But yeah, we're excited. Can't wait to, hopefully you're joining us next week, I know. So we're excited for everybody to be there. Hopefully we can put on a good show, and the broadcast goes well as well.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Caity. Thanks everyone for watching. Good luck next week. I'm sure everyone here will be on the stream watching too.